Sometimes the hourly radio newscast might contain certain stories that command your listener's attention after the newscast is over. And if one listener calls, at least 100 others are probably equally interested. But since the response level is unknowable, you should probably just slide into the subject for the first caller so you can play it off as a one-shot if nobody else calls. There's nothing worse than announcing this is going to be a special show and then nobody else calls and you're left having to beg for calls on the air. The following show, Rape in the Courts, was a spur-of-the-moment special. So listen to the way I play into it, so if nobody else calls, I can let it die as a one-shot without being committed to more.
Sunday afternoon Jim Fergusson'S show, and Irene, you were mentioning something in Jerry Lightsell's newscast.
Yes, I started to say that the police officer on that rape case in Florida said that wasn't justice. It was crime. Well, I believe that the law should be updated. It's about time the victim got some protection from the laws instead of the rapist.
Mm-hmm. But of course, laws in America are normally decided, justice is decided in a court and not on the street.
That's true, but the way the law is standing out today, the criminal has more protection than most of the victims.
Yeah, I think a lot of law enforcement people have talked about perhaps the point that we're bending over so far backwards to give the accused the benefit of the doubt that we're actually not enforcing the laws that we have now.
I don't think it just goes for rapist. It goes for any kind of a criminal. The laws are so in protection of the criminal that he can really do anything he wants to do, and he knows that in 6 months or a year he's going to be back out on the streets to do it again.
Yeah.
This is even true for murderers.
You used to see in the old Western movies, right? At the trial, the judge with a spittoon there did his number, and he said, "I find you guilty." That was it. You didn't see a cowboy saying, "Your Honor, I appeal this case on the," that was the decision was rendered and was carried out. There was no appeal, Now, in part of the problem with our court system that it is so backlogged is that almost every decision that is made is appealed, and maybe we have 5 or 6 court sessions from that one case instead of what used to be the one decision that the judge initially made. So that's a problem as far as the court system and the backlog, and why that maybe we have a case lingering on in courts for 5 years maybe.
That's true. But getting back to this case down in Florida, it goes true for any place. If a man is accused of rape, the victim is the one whose past is exposed in court, and not the criminal. And he comes out smelling like a rose, and the victim looks like the criminal. And I think that these laws should be changed.
Right. Now, again, though, it depends on what side you're on, Now, if your husband, say, were accused of rape, and, you would know that would not be true, then I think you would probably appreciate the way the system works, and that the character of the accused in a case like that is also extremely important. Now, I know that a lot of times that perhaps the accused is taken advantage of in court, because of that. Like you said, her past is dug up, and so it's a problem. But I think that probably we would want to be as fair as possible, and as right, trying to assemble the facts as possible.
There's another point of the law that doesn't seem hardly fair to justice. It states that I believe in some states a rape has to be witnessed. Well, a man just isn't going to rape a woman if there's a possibility that somebody's going to see him.
Right, I wasn't familiar with that. What state has that, do you know?
Oh, gee, I don't know. I have heard of it in some states, but I don't really know which ones they are. I know I have heard that in Kentucky, it's on the books that if a woman gets into a car with a man and rape is an outcome of it, that she can't accuse him of rape.
You mean if she voluntarily enters the car?
If she voluntarily enters the car for a ride or something of that sort, and he ends up raping her, she cannot prosecute him for it.
That's, again, something I'm unfamiliar with. Perhaps some of our listeners may have, additional information on that. I don't know. I've never heard of that. I would think that rape is rape, whatever. But I think that, we have in Louisville recently instituted, let's see, I don't want to go overboard on this, but I know there has been some modifications in the rape procedures, investigative procedures from the police department.
I think they're making real progress in a lot of the major cities through the country. I've read articles that they are helping women through this crisis more than they ever did before and realizing what an effect it can have on women. Which I think is good. I think it's time that somebody starts standing up for the victim instead of the one that perpetrates the crime against the victim. We've got a long way to go yet, though, in this country before we wipe it out. It's on the increase. And any news stories I've heard that the incident of rape is up a lot more than in past years.
One would think with the, as other people have said, our modern lifestyle, being more permissive than ever before, that would be on the decrease. Sort of paradox. Well, Irene, thank you for calling. We'll float it out, see what kind of response we get.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
We have a copy now of that story that came out of, what we said Miami, I believe, earlier. It was really Daytona Beach. And I'll read that for you, and then we have another release from Raleigh. And police in Daytona Beach say 6 women described as vigilantes armed themselves with knives and slashed an accused rapist before he could be arrested. The woman's victim, 20-year-old John Dotson, is reportedly in satisfactory condition at a local hospital after being placed under police guard. Authorities say none of the 6 women have been arrested and refuse to give any information about their investigation of the incident. Police say Dotson was working in his front yard Friday afternoon when the 6 women attacked him. Earlier, a Daytona Beach woman had filed a complaint against Dotson for rape. He was later charged with sexual battery. And another rape case at the moment. In news from Raleigh, North Carolina, the task of selecting the final 4 jurors to hear the Joan Little murder case begins tomorrow. Testimony probably to start by midweek. Miss Little, a 21-year-old black, is on trial in Raleigh, North Carolina for the slaying of a white jailer. Miss Little claims that the jailer, Clarence Allgood, tried to rape her and she acted in self-defense. So there we have it. And we were talking with Irene just a little earlier this afternoon on the comment line about the ability of rape trials not to seem to be swift and sure as the arm of justice is supposed to be.
Sharon, you had a comment on a rape subject?
Yes, sir, I did. A while ago, I heard you mention, what if it was your husband that had been charged? What if it was your wife, the one that had been raped? And say you and she had had sex relations before you were married, and maybe there had been someone else. Well, if they brought that up in court, they think, well, she slept with him and she slept with this other guy. Why should we convict him of rape when he, forcibly forced her into the sex act?
Well, I think the criteria for evaluation of whether rape had been committed is force. Regardless of if they'd known each other or not. I don't think that would be the criteria. I think the force would be, the point.
But she would really have no way of proving it, just her word.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and I think perhaps that's what happens in many rape cases. It becomes one person's word against the other, plus perhaps whatever medical evidence, whatever that's about. I'm not sure in my mind what they do there.
Yeah.
But in a normal rape case, what else would there be? Excluding perhaps off-chance witnesses.
Yeah, but so many times they wouldn't come forward and testify.
Well, that's true. That's true. It seems to me, though, that rape would come under, and we have all the civil rights thing, where we're talking about excluding somebody, like the Klan meeting that was in Louisville, and they were talking about perhaps violation of civil rights. They're excluding people from coming to that meeting. It looks like rape would be even a more graphic illustration of a violation of someone's, rights. You have the right to or the right not to. And the consequences of rape would be far more devastating emotionally than being excluded perhaps from, attending a meeting or whatever. But it's a highly emotional thing, a volatile crime that who knows? Do you think it's being dealt with fairly or accurately?
No, I don't. But I wouldn't know what to tell them how to do it. Because it's a very personal. Each person needs to be dealt with individually, not just you do this and you do that. Just set rules. It's not possible.
Well, there's a dilemma that the female has to decide at that point as to whether to resist or what.
Yeah.
And that's got to be a heavy decision.
Well, so many times when they even take them to court, they're off, and then they go rape somebody else, and then they get off for that too. That's what makes me so mad. Perhaps
it would be a matter of absolute evidence. I don't know if lie detector. The CIA is big on lie detector tests. I don't know if.
Well, that's not foolproof, though.
No.
And he's sure not going to rape you where everybody in the world can see it. That's for sure. So. I don't know. Well, that's really all I'm.
Right. Well, it's an interesting point, and I think regardless of whether you are the accused rapist or the rapee, justice has got to be done.
Something does.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Sharon.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Did you have a comment on the rape subject? Okay. May I have your first name? Your first name, please, sir.
Hello.
Yes, your first name, please.
John.
John. Okay, John. Go ahead.
There's only one way to stop this, and that is capital punishment.
You think to reinstitute capital punishment is a crime for rape?
That's the only way. I wrote the Supreme Court last week. I wrote the President the week before, and I wrote the Governor this last week. This thing of letting these guys go and rape a little girl and get by with it and don't punish them. In fact, they ought to make the punishment meet all these crimes. The only way to stop crime is punish the guy.